Eng for you. Key only when it served purpose, not ego. When you stop asking to be understood, you stop shrinking yourself for comfort. You stop adjusting your intensity to match other people's limits. You stop editing your ambition to avoid making others uncomfortable. I realize that the people meant to walk with you don't require constant explanation. They recognize consistency. They recognize discipline. They recognize presence. Those who don't were never meant to understand the process anyway. I learned to trust my internal compass more than external feedback. Applause became irrelevant. Criticism became background noise. What mattered was whether my actions aligned with my standards. I accepted that being misunderstood is often the cost of growth. When you change, when you evolve, when you move beyond old versions of yourself, not everyone updates their perception. And that's fine. I stopped trying to carry people who refuse to walk. I stopped dragging clarity into rooms that preferred confusion. I focused on execution, on improvement, on quiet consistency. The more I worked, the less I talked. The more I built, the less I explained. I understood that progress doesn't need witnesses. It needs commitment. I stopped seeking validation and started respecting my own discipline. That shift changed everything. I moved with calm instead of urgency. I listened more than I spoke. I observed patterns instead of reacting to moments. I learned that when your life speaks clearly, words become optional. I let results introduce me. I let preparation answer questions. I let time correct misconceptions. There is a deep freedom in not needing to be understood. It removes the pressure to perform. It removes the fear of judgment. It allows you to move at your own pace in your own way without interruption. I chose depth over display, substance over noise, direction over debate, and in doing so, I found a clarity that doesn't waver when opinions shift, because I stopped asking to be understood and started trusting the path I was already walking. Discipline replaced motivation when I understood that feelings are unreliable, but standards are not. Motivation comes and goes without warning. It rises with excitement and disappears under pressure. Discipline stays. It doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what needs to be done. I stopped waiting to feel ready. I stopped waiting to feel inspired. I built routines that functioned even when energy was low and confidence was quiet. Discipline taught me structure. Wake up, show up, execute, repeat. Not because it felt good, but because it was necessary. Over time, repetition built rhythm. Rhythm built momentum. Momentum built belief. I learned that progress is rarely dramatic. It's subtle. It's unglamorous. It's doing the same thing correctly long after the novelty fades. Discipline removed negotiation from my day. There was no internal debate about whether to work or rest. The decision had already been made by the standard I set. That removed friction. That saved time. That protected focus. I noticed how discipline simplified my life. Fewer excuses, fewer emotional swings, fewer wasted hours. I trained myself to act regardless of mood. On good days, discipline kept me grounded. On bad days, it carried me forward. Motivation would have abandoned me in those moments. Discipline did not. I stopped romanticizing effort and started respecting consistency. I learned that discipline is not punishment, it's protection. It protects your goals from your emotions. It protects your future from your present comfort. It creates boundaries that keep you moving forward when distraction tries to pull you sideways. Discipline sharpened my self-respect. Every time I kept a promise to myself, trust grew. Confidence followed. Not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that doesn't need reassurance. I became less reactive, less impulsive, more deliberate. Discipline slowed me down enough to be precise. It taught me timing. It taught me restraint. It taught me to wait when rushing would have caused mistakes. I learned that discipline is choosing long-term alignment over short-term relief. It's doing the work even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Over time, discipline reshaped my identity. I stopped seeing myself as someone who tries and started seeing myself as someone who completes. That shift changed how I approached obstacles. They no longer felt personal. They felt procedural, something to work through, something to escape. Discipline turned effort into habit and habit into character. It made my actions predictable to myself. That predictability created stability. Stability created strength. I no longer relied on excitement to begin or fear to continue. I relied on structure, on standards, on systems that carried me forward day after day. Discipline didn't make the path easier, it made me steadier. It allowed me to move through resistance without emotional collapse. It kept me aligned when distractions multiplied. It anchored me when motivation faded. And now, when challenges appear, I don't wait for a feeling to respond. I follow the standard I set because discipline replaced motivation, and what replaces emotion with structure becomes unbreakable. I no longer chase, I arrive, because chasing keeps you dependent on distance and arrival comes from alignment. There was a time when I ran after outcomes, after recognition, after moments I thought would complete me. The faster I moved, the further they seemed. Chasing made me reactive, it made me impatient. It kept my focus outside of myself. I learned that when you chase, you give power to what you pursue. You move on its terms. You rush your timing. You ignore your footing. Arrival is different. Arrival is quiet. It's controlled. It happens when preparation meets opportunity and neither feels rushed. I shifted my attention from speed to positioning, from urgency to accuracy. I focused on becoming ready rather than becoming visible. I stopped forcing doors and started building keys. I learned to stand where effort compounds instead of scatters. When you arrive, you're not surprised by success because you've already met its requirements. I learned to let consistency do the traveling for me. Day by day, repetition closed the distance without drama. I stopped announcing my intentions and started executing them. I stopped comparing timelines and started respecting process. Arrival requires patience, not passivity. It requires awareness, not waiting. I learned to read moments instead of pushing them, to sense when to move and when to hold. Chasing is loud. Arrival is certain. I noticed how calm replaced anxiety once I stopped running. My steps became measured. My decisions became cleaner. I no longer needed to prove urgency to feel alive. I trusted the work I had done. I trusted the hours no one saw. I trusted the discipline that shaped me. When opportunities appeared, I didn't rush toward them. I met them where I stood, prepared, grounded, capable. Arrival doesn't mean the journey ends. It means you stop doubting your place in it. You move with ownership instead of hunger. You don't grab. You claim. You don't plead. You decide. I learned that what's meant for you doesn't require pursuit. It requires readiness. I positioned myself through effort, through restraint, through patience. And when the moment came, there was no need to chase it down. It recognized me. I was already there. I am not chasing the moment. I am becoming the moment, because true impact is not found in timing alone, but in transformation. There was a time when I waited for the right opportunity, believing that one perfect moment would change everything. I learned that moments don't arrive fully formed. They are shaped by preparation, by consistency, by the quiet work done long before anyone is watching. I stopped positioning myself on the sidelines, hoping to be called forward. I stepped into the work that creates presence. Becoming the moment required responsibility. It meant showing up without invitation. It meant refining my craft when recognition was absent. It meant choosing growth over comfort repeatedly. I learned that when you become the moment, you don't need urgency. You bring readiness with you. The moment adapts to you because you've already adapted to its demands. I didn't rush toward visibility. I built substance. I didn't force attention. I earned relevance. Transformation changed how I moved through pressure. I stopped reacting to circumstances and started influencing outcomes. I became consistent enough that my presence carried weight, not because of volume, but because of reliability. Becoming the moment meant internal alignment. My actions matched my intentions. My standards matched my goals. My discipline matched my ambition. There was no gap between who I said I was becoming and how I behaved daily. It wasn't obvious when outcomes refused to reveal themselves, when every option carried risk and hesitation tried to slow my steps. I learned that waiting for clarity can quietly become an excuse to stay still. Progress doesn't always announce itself with confidence. Sometimes it begins with a decision made in doubt. I accepted that uncertainty is part of growth, not a sign to stop. I trusted movement over hesitation. Each step forward revealed something the last step could not. I learned by doing, not by predicting. The path shaped itself as I walked it. I stopped demanding guarantees from life and started offering commitment instead. Unclear paths test resolve. They ask whether you believe in your preparation enough to move without reassurance. I did. I relied on discipline when vision was limited. I relied on consistency when motivation faded. I relied on awareness when confidence wavered. Moving forward without full clarity sharpened my instincts. It forced me to stay present, to read situations instead of assumptions, to adjust without panic. I learned that control doesn't come from knowing everything, it comes from being able to respond to anything. I didn't rush blindly. I moved deliberately, slow enough to observe, steady enough to continue. I accepted mistakes as feedback, not failure. Each correction refined my direction. Each obstacle clarified my priorities. I stopped fearing wrong turns because every turn taught me something useful. The unknown stopped feeling threatening and started feeling neutral. Just another condition to work within. I realized that confidence grows from action, not from waiting. The more I moved, the steadier I became. Doubt lost its grip because momentum replaced hesitation. I learned to carry responsibility for my choices without resentment. If the path narrowed, I adapted. If it opened, I advanced. I didn't need perfect visibility to maintain progress. I needed trust in my ability to handle what appeared next. That trust was built through repetition, through discipline, through surviving moments that once felt overwhelming. I no longer pause because I can't see the entire road. I focus on the next step I can take with intention. Forward movement created its own clarity. It revealed strength I hadn't tested yet. It exposed weaknesses I could improve. It taught me patience under uncertainty. I didn't wait for fear to disappear. I moved with it under control. I didn't demand assurance. I created readiness. The path doesn't need to be clear for progress to happen. It needs commitment. And I kept moving, grounded, focused, adaptable, trusting that direction becomes visible to those who refuse to stand. Still, he didn't arrive angry. I arrived ready, because anger burns fast and leaves you empty, while readiness is built slowly and stays with you. There was a time when frustration tried to lead me, when disappointment wanted to decide my next move, when emotions pushed me toward reaction instead of direction. I learned that anger makes you loud but unstable. It clouds timing. It rushes decisions. It turns focus outward instead of inward. Readiness does the opposite. It steadies you. It sharpens awareness. It keeps you present instead of reactive. I chose preparation over emotion. I chose calm over chaos. I didn't need fire in my chest. I needed clarity in my mind. Readiness came from repetition, from discipline, from facing uncomfortable truths without blaming anyone else. I trained when no one demanded it. I learned when no one noticed it. I improved when there was no guarantee of reward. That kind of preparation doesn't announce itself. It settles into your posture. It changes how you stand, how you speak, how you move through pressure. I didn't arrive fueled by resentment. I arrived grounded in understanding. I understood my strengths because I tested them. I understood my limits because I challenged them. I understood my timing because I waited when rushing would have ruined progress. Readiness taught me patience without passivity. It taught me confidence without arrogance. I didn't need to prove intensity. I needed to demonstrate control. When the moment approached, I didn't feel the urge to rush forward. I felt steady, present, capable. That's how I knew I was ready. Not because my heart was racing, but because my mind was quiet. I trusted my preparation more than my emotions. I trusted the work I had done in silence. I trusted the discipline that shaped my habits. Anger would have demanded immediate action. Readiness allowed me to choose the right action. I wasn't reacting to the past. I was responding to the moment in front of me. I had already processed the setbacks. I had already accepted the losses. I had already learned the lessons. There was nothing left to prove through emotion. Everything left to do required execution. Readiness meant I could adapt without panic, adjust without frustration, continue without hesitation. I didn't need adrenaline to feel alive. I needed alignment to feel confident. I knew my role. I knew my direction. I knew my capacity. That knowledge replaced urgency with precision. When challenges appeared, I didn't tighten up. I stayed loose. When pressure increased, I didn't rush. I focused. Readiness doesn't eliminate fear, it manages it. It keeps fear from driving the decision. I arrived calm because calm is a sign of preparation. I arrived focused because focus is earned. I arrived ready because readiness is what remains after anger fades, after excuses fall away, after preparation is complete, and all that's left is execution. I am coming for what I earned, not what I was given, because nothing that lasts is handed over without cost. I learned early that gifts can be taken back, but effort cannot be erased. What I earned came from hours that demanded sacrifice, from choices that required restraint, from moments where quitting felt reasonable and continuing felt heavy. No one saw the repetitions, no one counted the failures, and one measured the discipline it took to show up when outcomes were uncertain. I'm not chasing luck. I'm not waiting for permission. I'm moving toward what reflects the work I've already done. What I earned carries weight because it was paid for in focus and patience and consistency. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't borrowed. It wasn't influenced by opinion. I built it piece by piece, often without reassurance that it would amount to anything. I learned that entitlement weakens effort, but earning sharpens it. When you earn something, you respect it, you protect it, you don't waste it. I stopped asking for shortcuts and started accepting the cost. The cost was time, the cost was comfort, the cost was silence, and I paid it willingly. I watched opportunities pass because I wasn't ready yet, and instead of blaming timing, I improved my preparation. I learned to delay reward without losing direction. I learned to trust that effort compounds even when results are delayed. What I earned is aligned with who I became in the process. It fits me. It doesn't feel foreign or overwhelming. It feels familiar because I've been living its requirements for a long time. I don't need to prove ownership through noise. My presence is enough. I know what it took to get here. I know what I gave up. I know what I endured. That knowledge keeps me grounded. It keeps me disciplined. I don't compare my path to others because I didn't walk theirs. I walked mine, step by step, quietly, deliberately. I'm not oming with expectation. I'm coming with readiness. I'm not asking to be chosen. I already chose myself. What I earn doesn't depend on approval. It depends on alignment. And I stayed aligned even when doubt tried to redirect me. I accepted slow progress without resentment. I accepted resistance without complaint. I accepted responsibility without excuses. I became accountable to my own standard. That standard didn't bend when motivation faded. It didn't lower when pressure increased. It stayed firm. And because of that, I stand firm. I don't arrive empty-handed. I arrive carrying proof in discipline, proof in consistency, proof in restraint. I'm not here to claim what was never mine. I'm here to step into what I built over time, what reflects my effort, my patience, my resolve, because I am coming for what I earned, not what I was given. This is not revenge. This is resolve. And there is a clear difference between reacting to the past and committing to the future. Revenge looks backward. It feeds on memory. It stays tied to wounds that never fully close. Resolve looks forward. It's calm. It's deliberate. It doesn't need an audience. I learned that carrying anger is heavy work. It drains focus. It clouds judgment. It keeps you attached to moments that should have already passed. Resolve releases that weight. It takes the lesson without carrying the bitterness. I didn't move forward to prove anyone wrong. I moved forward because standing still was no longer an option. Resolve is quiet confidence built on repetition, not emotion. It doesn't rise and fall with moods. It stays steady under pressure. I stopped measuring my progress against those who doubted me. I measured it against my own standard. That change removed distraction. It sharpened intent. Revenge would have kept me reacting to old voices. Resolve made me listen to my own. I focused on direction instead of damage, on growth instead of comparison. Resolve allowed me to forgive without forgetting, to remember without reliving. It gave me space to choose discipline over impulse, patience over provocation. I learned that strength doesn't need to announce itself. It shows up on time. It stays consistent. It finishes what it starts. Resolve doesn't rush. It doesn't threaten. It commits, day after day, choice after choice. I built my future with intention, not resentment. I let go of the need to be seen as justified. I focused on being aligned. Resolve is not loud. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply continues. When setbacks appeared, I adjusted without drama. When pressure increased, I steadied my pace. I understood that revenge seeks satisfaction, resolve seeks completion. Satisfaction fades, completion lasts. I didn't come this far fueled by anger. I came fueled by clarity, by the understanding that my path is mine to walk, regardless of who watches or who doubts. Resolve kept me focused when emotions tried to distract me. It reminded me why I started when progress slowed. It anchored me when outcomes were uncertain. I no longer needed conflict to feel driven. I needed purpose. This is not about settling scores. It's about honoring commitment, commitment to growth, commitment to discipline, commitment to becoming who I decided to be. And that commitment doesn't waver when emotions shift. It doesn't weaken under pressure. It doesn't fade with time. It remains steady, grounded, intentional, moving forward without noise, without hesitation, without looking back, because this is not revenge, this is resolve.